Hey everyone, welcome back to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Popple, my co-host, Will McClellan, and we got Chris back for part two. So, Chris,
Guys,
you went full-time in real estate in October 2023, and since then it seems like things have taken off. What did that transition look like, and how did you prepare for it?
man, so I'm not sure much can prepare you for it, but it's however, it was something that I was really ready for when it happened. Probably actually what really propelled me into full-time real estate outside of the investing we'd already started in 2020, pardon me, with our first house on F Street was wholesaling. That's what convinced me. I started probably listening in early 2023 to YouTube channels and some books on wholesaling. I started following people like Rick and Zach Ginn. They're down in Florida. They're big wholesalers. A little bit of Jerry Norton, some Jamil Damji. I'm not sure I'm saying his name right. So Jamil, if you see this, I'm sorry, buddy. And then even RJ Bates a little bit later. RJ Bates the second. That guy is or the third. I don't know. But RJ Bates and Cassie Bates, they also some great YouTube teachers of wholesaling. And so I started looking into wholesaling. I didn't actually know about it at first. I had just started to realize and learn that through listening to the Burr books and stuff that I was listening to for the Burr method, that everybody kept repeating, well, you make your money on the buy. You win on the buy, not when you go to sell. So you have to learn how to buy really well. So I started looking into that. And I had kind of a harebrained idea one day. I thought to myself on a long drive down to Orlando for my job, well, what if I'm out here trying to learn how to buy homes for our business, but I can't buy everything I'm finding, not nearly. And what if I could somehow, turn these deals over to other investors and make a little money somehow, like doing that? I didn't really know how this works. My wife has a real estate agent. She's just never hung it. Or real estate agent license, pardon me. She's never hung it with a broker. And so I ran this idea by her at the time. And, she told me, I said, well, honey, I'm not really sure that that's legal. I think you might need to be a broker to do that, to sell deals that you find. And I said, okay, you're probably right. And she goes, you could do that if you want. And I said, well, how long does that take? Oh, probably like 4 years or so. I said, no, forget it. Same reason I never completed college. Unfortunately, I just can't sit still for long enough. But I like to get my hands dirty. So, I was on the YouTubes and I saw this one guy, and I think he's passed now, rest his soul, but you guys might have saw him. He used to come up on these advertisements and he would be out like on this deck in this house in the woods. And he'd be like, I just made $22,000 on the phone from a house that I didn't even buy. And it's called wholesaling. And the first time I heard that, it was kind of like the first time I saw Sam's Restaurant. I thought, this is a scam. Sounds too good to be true. Healthy fast food. Make $22,000 from a home I never bought, in 30 days. So I wrote it off. I thought, no, like that's because there's a lot of scams out there. But then I decided, well, okay, I don't know what came around, but I thought I'd look into it. And I found out, well, the idea I had actually is a thing. It's called wholesaling. People are doing it and they don't have their real estate license. They're not a broker. And furthermore, some of these are like 17-year-old kids. No diss to any 17-year-olds out there. I think it's awesome that they're getting into it at this age, but I was shocked. They're wholesaling homes in different states from their computer and making 10, 15, 20, 30, $40,000 a deal. They're holding up these checks and these kids can't even grow a beard yet. And I'm just here I am in my 30s, working a salary job for a law firm, working, 60 hours a week, probably getting clients for this law firm and traveling all these hours. And these kids are sitting at home playing Call of Duty and whipping out these big checks that they're making. And I'm thinking, what is going on? So that kind of launched me into it. And once I heard and learned about it, I had to try it. And so I actually ended up getting a property under contract. And I didn't actually close that deal. If I could have, I would have made about $50,000 on my first deal. but I contracted a property in the middle of a divorce, and so by the end of the divorce, it wasn't quite legitimate. I contracted, the wife owned the property, she's getting the property, but it couldn't move forward until they finished their legal stuff. And by then she got cold feet, and I just saw like a few months ago it sold for about 170,000 on the MLS. So I'm a little bitter I didn't get that one, but I'm not really bitter. I'm kidding, because what it did is it gave me proof of concept. It's what I needed.
Totally,
So,
dude. The education, it's invaluable.
yeah.
That's amazing, man. I think that you being so open and honest is something that we just love to have on the show. You also dropped quite a number of resources that you found all on YouTube. If you don't mind running those back again, so maybe that the listeners can like pause and write things down. I know they would find that valuable, especially since it's brought you so much success. And then coming soon, probably when this is released, you know, they'll be able just to link right over to the Wholesale Rookie, which we're going to dive into, and your whole new YouTube channel, which it will be probably a conglomerate of not only everything that you've done, but also everything that you've learned in succession with all of these other channels kind of combined, which is going to be really awesome. I can't wait to check it out.
Thank you, man. Yeah, that's actually my hope. I want this. Look, you know, only the Lord can change your life forever. But if you want a financial change, like a monetary change, like I can tell you, wholesaling can definitely do that part. You know, it won't make you a better person, but it can make you richer. And I do think that we need good people to get into wholesaling. I really do. So that's part of the thrust of the channel, is to educate people on how to do it, and hopefully encourage people to get in there and start helping out, because as wholesalers, we solve problems for people. The houses that we wholesale, that we contract, are houses that aren't making people money. You know, we're talking about my properties during this episode and the last episode and the money they're making me. But for these people that I'm working with, these houses are a liability. In some cases, they're like an anchor around their neck. I could tell you story after story, and they need cash for their house, and they can't list it on Zillow with an agent because it doesn't look good. The roof is leaking for a number of reasons. So we fill a very special spot in the market up. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I think you wanted some of the resources. And so I started off with, I think Jerry Norton must have been the first guy that I heard. And you'll recognize the violins the second. He always has the same intro music to his channel, but he's great. And it kind of caught my eye. And I want to preface it with this. He sells a course. Jamil sells a course. RJ sells a course. I don't hate on people who sell courses. I think it's great. But if I was going to get in and learn, I would say just hold off. Don't buy anybody's course just yet. There's a lot of information you can glean from these people for free first before you start putting in the money. I think you should invest in your education. I think it's great to pay for some masterminds. I think if you're serious about it, you should attend at least one mastermind a year to keep learning about it. But there's so much information out there that I think that's one reason I was really drawn to Rick and Zach Ginn, Ginn. They offer a course for free, wholesaling real estate course for free. In fact, they just took down their old wholesaling free course and revamped it in 2025, just 2 weeks ago, and put a brand new course up that's bigger, better, updated information. And they're probably the only resource I can think of right now outside of what's coming soon, the Wholesale Rookie, that teaches wholesaling for free.
That's sick. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. And yeah, I mean, is there something in it for them? And for me in the future? Yeah, people will lock up a contract and you might not know how to move it yet, but I don't want people to worry about that. We can JV, I'll partner with people to help them sell the contract they lock up. But what's important is learning how to find a deal. So that'll be the whole thrust of the channel, is to teach people how to find deals and lock them up. But Rick and Zach Ginn is a great place to start. Take their free wholesaling real estate course to learn how to close over the phone and to ask the right questions. Listen to RJ Bates. His King Closer formula, you can learn it for free. And let me tell you, that will change the way you start talking to sellers, and it'll cut out a lot of time you will waste on the phone in the beginning. I think Jerry Norton, Brent Daniels, it Brent Daniels or Brett Daniels? Brent Daniels, I believe, of the TTP, Talk to People community. There's some great resources. And so and all these guys are going to pop up. They're probably like the godfathers of the YouTube wholesaling space. And I think I'm so glad to see you guys in here talking about investing and other stuff too, because we need more fresh blood to introduce ideas on YouTube, I think. But those are some of the resources that really help me out.
So what does your acquisition model look like when it comes to wholesaling? Are you doing direct to seller marketing, or are you just?
Oh, you're way too fast right now. If someone doesn't even know what wholesaling is, we got to pump the brakes, dude, because this is nuts and bolts. You guys are getting a whole bunch of stuff for free. So sorry to cut you off, Sam.
Oh, you're good.
I'm pumped. But right now, Chris is like giving so many. We usually call them golden nuggets, where we tell the listeners, hey, pause, rewind. So right there, you could just start at the beginning of this episode, because not only is Chris like telling you what he's doing, he's talking about his first deal that he actually didn't get to close all the way. So you already know he's letting you know inside scoop, the good, the bad, the ugly, what it means, all for the good of education. You're going to learn something from every deal. And a ton of free resources right there. And then I just can't wait again until the Wholesale Rookie YouTube comes out, because I know that's going to be amazing. So I'm just going to start a little bit before you there, Sam. So I know if you guys listen to Chris's first episode, moving around, doing a lot of things, all around, musician starting up, super creative. Do you think that maybe like fast-paced moving helps you in wholesaling, or anyone can kind of jump in?
I really think anybody can jump in. I do think if you're used to change and stuff, it'll help. You know, if you crave security, that's going to be something you're going to have a hurdle you have to overcome. I will say this, that it only really requires one ingredient, and that is hard work. Nothing that you hear from any of those people or myself or from Sam or Will can ever substitute that one ingredient. It's hard work. You have to keep going. But I can tell you, it's not a matter of if, it's when. And I think maybe this will help simplify it for some people. I didn't quite put this together myself till a little bit later, but you know, when we say wholesaling real estate, it's really hard for people to wrap their head around what that is. And we get called a lot of ugly things like equity thief by people who don't understand, you know, us and things like that. But to put it very simply, people understand wholesaling, and they don't even realize they understand it. They go to the store, you go to Safeway, Publix, any supermarket, and you buy groceries retail. And we're all okay with knowing the fact that the grocery store bought those at a wholesale price, they've marked it up, and they sold it at a retail price. Wholesalers are just fulfilling that section of the market in real estate. We're providing investors who have an end product, a home that they want to fix up and sell for more than they bought it for and invested in it to make a profit. So fix it up, sell it to make a profit. And we're the guys who are the supplier of those homes. And these are off-market deals because these are people who don't advertise with a real estate agent. I like what a lot of the people say on YouTube. I think Rick and Zach Ginn, RJ Bates say this, and I'm going to echo it because it's really important for wholesalers to understand. We are looking to work with people who, if you want to sell your house, I don't want to work with you. If you want to sell your house, go find a real estate agent. I'm looking for people who need to sell their house. Because with every wholesaling deal, there's a story and there's a problem we're solving. That's why I get touchy when people call wholesalers equity thieves or think we're scammers. Hey, look, there are bad people in every industry. You know, we need our police officers. We love them, but they get put through a background check and a psych eval, and we still get bad apples every once in a while. It doesn't matter where you're at. There's going to be bad apples, but for every one bad wholesaler, there's 10 good wholesalers who are solving real problems in real time. Not to get too specific, but to throw out two quick examples. I had in the very same week, 2 houses that came down one of my lead funnels through bandit signs, actually. Called up my bandit sign. The first one, her home was going to the auction block in 2 weeks for a tax deed. So she was going to lose her house, no money. And the second one, I got a call the very next day off my bandit sign for another house in Robertsdale, Alabama. For people that aren't familiar with this area, Robertsdale is about 40 minutes from here. Pensacola is very close to the Alabama border. And this person was calling me because he had just gotten out of prison and his wife was in jail, had been in jail for a few months. And in 2 weeks, she was going to jail for 10 to 15 years if she didn't pay $33,000 restitution. And there was no ifs, ands, or buts. By 1 o'clock on this day, if the courthouse did not have the money, prison. And well, as Sam had talked a little bit about his background, I think you said 3 years was your background. I mean, I couldn't imagine spending 3 years, let alone a decade to 15 years behind bars. But I was able to.
I'd come up with 33 grand.
What's that?
I said I'd come up with 33 grand, not to go do 10. Yeah.
Right? I mean, shoot, I'd do it to not do 3 days, but let alone 10 years. But these are people who had, and this is actually why there is some seriousness to what we do, guys, because I contracted these houses and I needed to move them in order to save these people. If I contracted their house and then I didn't come through, these are very real consequences for these people that I wouldn't be able to sleep very well at the end of the night, knowing that I failed them because I wasn't able to move the property. So there is a little bit of seriousness sometimes in the problems we solve, but that's the kind of motivation where people are willing to sell their home for the price that it needs to go in order to solve their problem. So I usually tell people, yeah, they sacrifice some equity for speed and convenience.
Dude, and everyone does that. Everyone's gone to Walmart and gone to the clearance aisle.
Right? I do want to add in, and I want to add in something else too, because I agree with everything you said. Will and I actually just recently saved someone from an auction as well. They were about to lose their property to an auction. Again, They owed over $20,000 in liens were against it. I mean, the
taxes, fines.
Basically, there was more in liens than the property was really worth. We worked out a deal to where that guy, if it went to auction, he got nothing. It's zero, and he's still screwed. We did the deal where basically everything got covered. He got to walk away with $2,000, and then we only made $2,000. So it's not like we got rich, but everybody got something, and he didn't completely lose. And then the one other thing I want to lead out for people that don't totally understand wholesaling, there are people all the time that are in a situation where they need to sell their home or want to sell their home, but their home has outdated mechanicals because they don't know what mechanicals are. Your HVAC, your ACs, your central heating and air, your electrical, your plumbing, your roof. Those are the major things that all come with a huge price tag. Usually, any one of those things, and even in a small house, is usually over $10,000 to redo it. A lot of people who are hit with time, they have to tell us they don't have the $10,000 to fix it, and those homes won't qualify for conventional financing. So it's not even an option to sell one of these houses through a traditional method because it won't sell. And so that's where a wholesaler comes in, can save someone from that situation, put it with an investor who's willing to improve all the mechanicals, and then a finished home is then released back to the public, to buy for a family and move into. And so, like I said, there's definitely a need for wholesaling. And I think if people really understood the situations that some of the people are in, they would understand that wholesalers, can live, parallel and simultaneously with realtors and everyone else in the industry. And it's not taking anything away.
I think something very, very critical here. It's not taking anything away because these aren't being listed anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right now,
and they're usually blights to society, the blights on the community. Like usually the houses are,
exactly, because right now the focus of a wholesaler is to be the problem solver, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what Chris is doing. He's solving a problem because the realtor was never going to list this anyway. But, and here's the huge but, Chris is working with other investors who are then trying to list it on the MLS, which now what Chris is doing is actually giving a realtor the opportunity for a listing. And so
I love that point. That's a great point, Will. I've never actually put that together, but I like that.
No, Will made a solid one there. It's a realtor would never get the house if it wasn't for a wholesaler getting it to someone who could get it ready for the realtor.
Yeah, and buyer.
Exactly. Because I actually had a pretty lengthy conversation with another real estate investor that happened to be a realtor, which I thought was interesting that they were thinking, now this might be a one-off because they're like, hey, I'm a realtor, I'm a real estate investor. Like I could wholesale this and I could list it. But I was like, hey, I think you're missing the point. Like you are focusing on in buyers. You're dealing with mortgage loan originators. You're dealing with the title company. You already have all of these contacts. Like let the wholesaler make just a little fee because his contact is really the person who's flipping the house, who's then going to list it with you. Why are you trying to take all the pieces of the pie? You know?
Yeah.
And then when I said it that way, just kind of how I said it a second ago, I could tell that really hit. And he was like, yeah, maybe I'm focusing on I'm focusing on the wrong group of people there. Like let them focus on what they're really good at. I'll focus on what I'm really good at. And next thing I know, I'm gonna have more listings that I even know of, because if I have a great relationship with Chris and I said, hey, Chris, I know you're slinging deals left and right. You had 5 last month that you sold, let's just, in this case, sold to 5 different people. If I can convert 20% of them into a listing, or 2, now I have 2 listings I would have never got.
Good point. I like that.
These are going to be completed homes that are ideally, which is what you as the wholesaler, you're writing your ARV, and then also the fix and flipper are wanting to sell at top dollar price per square foot, right? So if I'm the realtor, I'm like, yeah, dude, Chris, however I can even send you leads, like I got these pocket listings that are coming in, like I might need to feed it to you because you know to get it to the right person. And from there, I'm going to do my best because I have a whole bunch of people looking to buy that want to be in this area, but don't have enough money liquid to do a fix and flip. And then everyone's kind of working. But I digress there because I really think something that's really interesting and awesome about this episode right now is the fact that we have a clean slate, right? Wholesalers, problem solvers. But from there, right now with the wholesale rookie, you're able to teach everyone from the ground level. So tell us a little bit about that business, about what you're doing with your organic marketing, your direct marketing, and what I would need to do outside of 1, being a problem solver, and 2, being able to communicate, which if you guys didn't hear, I believe you said that RJ Bates has a king closer formula, and Rick and Zach have a free course there to kind of how to talk to people if you aren't very comfortable with. And so you can kind of start there and then listen here how Chris built his business, because I'm super excited on just the organic growth that you've had and seeing where it's going to keep going. So if I was just starting off, like give me the ABCs.
Sure. So I think the hardest thing for any new wholesaler is, I kind of piggybacking off what you were saying, real estate agents and wholesalers are kind of like the Hatfields and McCoys in some circles, because they don't understand everything you just presented. So a lot of new wholesalers, the trap you can easily fall into is the trap of wearing your real estate agent hat. You're worried about telling people, like getting them to say yes to your offer for the contract, more worried about that than getting it under contract for the price that investors need it to be at to make a win. So
what you're saying is I need to focus, if I'm going to get into wholesaling, just on my investors. That's my goal. And how I can problem solve properly for the person who needs, right? A wholesaler is someone that helps someone who needs to sell a home, not who wants to sell a home.
Exactly. So if a real estate agent might not have that hard-hitting conversation with somebody that we would, they're kind of more like on the entertainment side of it. They're the server at the table. What would you like today, sir? Can I sell your house? I think it'd be better this price, sir, but if you want, I will list it at that. They're a little bit more people pleasing front forward, and it's tempting. I'm a people pleaser. I come back from an entertainment background. I want people to be happy when I'm speaking to them naturally as a person, but I'm also there to solve a problem, and I have to be honest with people. And so I guess the first step is learning how to analyze a deal, understanding your market a little bit. So we kind of have to understand a couple of basic things. First off, we need to understand 2 things: ARV and how, well, basically 3. ARV and we need to get a little bit into what it's going to cost to flip a place, understanding a little bit of the cost behind that. But it's very simple, and you can find formulas for all of this. ARV is after repair value for the people who are new listening, but we have to understand your market, what something goes for, all fixed up. And then if I have a house that's if I see one on the corner that's ugly, and I go to that owner and I put it under contract, I need to understand in just the quarter mile right around that house what the neighborhood's doing on the market. What are things going for as is, and what are they going for after all fixed up? And so I kind of start backwards. We do the maze backwards on this. We want to know what our end product will sell for. And this is all an educated guess, guys. So we want to be conservative, but we'll get more into that later. And then after we figure out where we're going, what the end price is that we can sell that home for, the investor can, once it's all fixed up, then we kind of know how to start going backwards from there. We go, okay, well, this is a 1,500 square foot home. Maybe it's a light rehab. And then we try to qualify it: light rehab, medium rehab, or heavy rehab. So light rehab might be something like, hey, you know what? Everything's pretty good inside, but it's had tenants for a couple of years, so we need to paint it, put some new flooring down, touch up a few things, but roof's good, wiring's good, plumbing's good. We can pretty much just reuse what's there. A medium rehab would constitute of something that would everything that a light rehab does, but now we're not able to save everything. Maybe we're going to have to start updating some bathrooms a little bit, and kitchens and fixing some extra stuff. Heavy would be something where you have a lot of mechanical problems. So maybe right now code is 3-wire copper for electrical, but back in the day they made homes with aluminum and cloth wiring, so those are outdated. So when an investor goes to flip that home after they fix it up, they have to have satisfied all the new codes in order to sell it and pass inspection, as you were talking about, for a bank buyer, somebody who's getting a mortgage. So we have to get an understanding of what the current condition of the house is and what it's a ballpark figure, what it's going to take to get there. And this can sound intimidating to people who have never, ever flipped a home in their life, never fixed anything. But keep in mind what I first said earlier. There's 17-year-olds out there sitting behind a computer screen who don't even walk the property, who listen to Rick and Zach Gann and Jerry Norton, these guys who just picked up the phone and started doing massive imperfect action and got a deal under contract. And then we're able to kind of fumble their way through. We end up relying on our investors to kind of give us that end number, especially when we're new, where we need to be. So if you get something under contract, congratulations, and don't worry if it's not the right price, because guess what? We're going to put an inspection period in there. So we're not obligated to buy it if it ends up being more than we thought it was. And then we're going to get our investors in there, start walking the property right away. And we're going to get feedback, and we're going to understand that if everything we estimated and what they were telling us is true and we're on point with our numbers, our investors will see it the same way. If not, they're going to say, hey, Chris, I see that you're trying to sell this contracted house for $150,000 and you think the ARV is $300,000. Well, it looks like I'm going to have to put in more than you thought I was originally going to have to put into this. And they might say, well, I can only pay $130,000 for the house. That's okay. Now I have a number, and I can go back to the Mr. and Mrs. Seller and say, hey, look, originally we thought it was going to be this, but upon inspection, we found some other issues that are going to make the cost of this project a lot bigger. So I'm not able to honor the original price, but if you can, about $130,000, we can get it done. So it can be a little awkward sometimes, especially when you're first doing it, but it's not as, I guess I say that to say to not get too hung up on trying to estimate repairs right away if that's scary. I do some basic stuff in my area, like I know light rehab's around $45 a square foot, mediums 55-ish a square foot, and then if I'm going to do something heavy, I know I'm in at least like $75 a square foot. And then if I'm going to get in something like in a really nice area where the homes are really nice, it could go all the way up to like $100 a square foot. But once you understand those, we're trying to get an approximate estimate, not an exact, of what an investor will have to put in, because keep in mind, every investor is different. You guys, you take a lot of land deals on, you build from the ground up, you have established crews, you have different relationships you've already made with people on your team. So your cost will vary from another investor who might be just brand new to the game and doesn't have as many people. So we're trying to get that. What I always shoot for my business is I've now made connections where I know my investors who pay the least, who try to get it more at the numbers a wholesaler does. And then I know my investors who pay a lot more. So I'll try to get my numbers down to where I know the guy who will pay the least will take it, and then I can put it out there, and the people who pay more than them will use. Then I make a little extra. But at any rate, it all starts with an ARV, and then an estimate for repairs, and then contracting it.
So before I even get this ARV, like if I'm brand new, how do I even get a lead, or how do I get someone on the phone, or how do I know what a house?
And this is a great time to probably bring up how you do these bandit signs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's start off with what a bandit sign is.
Yeah. Cause you had mentioned bandit sign earlier, and how you got 2 deals, an auction and then restitution case based off a bandit sign, which if it was me and I was listening to this, I'd be waiting for this, because you said you got 2 deals off of one sign. Like I'm trying to figure out what the heck this bandit sign thing is.
Sure. So bandit signs are the reason they're called bandit signs is because they're pretty much not legal in just about any city you do them in. Code enforcement doesn't really like them. So there are some important precautions to take. I have my way of justifying this. So I'll tell you mine, and you can decide if it's something you want to implement in your business. But a bandit sign is, you'll see them you'll actually see them outside of the wholesaling. You'll see like, we buy junk cars. We buy houses cash. They'll be in the ground on a stake. They'll be up on a telephone pole. Sometimes they look like they're handwritten with a Sharpie. And believe it or not, sometimes the crappier they look, the better, because the people in this particular bracket are looking for cash quick, and they're hoping to find somebody who's a real person who can fulfill that need. So I print out bandit signs, and I have a yellow bandit sign that says we buy houses cash. Very simple, couple of money bags and some dollar signs. And then I have a number at the bottom. And I just leave out my area code because I'm only putting up bandit signs in this market. I don't do that nationwide, obviously, just in my local market. So I want my number to be real big because I put these up on telephone poles with staples. But I get these printed out, and
he's famous for putting them high up on the telephone pole around here.
So you can, yes, that's kind of one of the things I do, because some code enforcement will take down your signs. And I want to emphasize this: if you put up bandit signs, do not put your cell phone number on there. Don't put your home phone number on there. You're going to get a call from code enforcement. They're going to be able to trace that. Oh, it looks like we lost Will. He'll probably rejoin, but he'll be back. But anyway, so I want to emphasize: you get a Google number or use open phone or something, and pay for a number that doesn't trace back to you. But I put a sign up. They're probably, I don't know, like 1 foot wide by 2 feet long. You'll probably see
18 by 24, probably.
That's exactly right. Thank you. 18 by 24. Yeah. 1.5 feet by 2 feet. And I print, instead of printing them out landscape, I print mine vertically, because I want, when you put them on a telephone pole, if they're like this, the wind blows and it bends them. But if you flip them the other way, as long as code or somebody else doesn't take them down, mine will last over a year. Like, it's really cool.
Great insight. Yeah, no, I actually do. I would have had to learn that through trial and error. So that's actually a great tip for anybody listening. And
honestly, I see in my market, I'll know who's a new wholesaler, at least a wholesaler getting into bandit signs, because it's something one of my funnels that I've really focused on, one of my marketing funnels. And so I'll see the new ones because they'll have them in landscape style. And then sure enough, like 2 days later, it's Florida. We've had, a tropical storm roll through, and their signs are bent. And if the wind blows the wrong way, they fold in like a sandwich. You can't read anything on the front. Another tip is print one side. If you're going to put them on stakes in the ground, don't print double, because the sun bleeds through the back, and you can't in like at high noon or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It makes it hard to see your sign. And on that note, pick colors that work. I use yellow signs with black writing because it just catches your eye. A couple of guys that are successful around here use yellow and black, as well as blue and white works too. But you want it to be eye-popping. You want people to see it there. I choose to put them up high I'm hoping that there's lazy code enforcement guys who don't want to get way up there and do it. So you can go online, and actually I'm going to market some of these 2 through the wholesale rookie in the near future. But I bought a stapler, and it's a big pole with a bracket on the front, so you can slide the sign in, and the hammer stapler is behind the sign, so you can reach up, hammer it on the pole, come down, and there's one staple in the pole that on the sign that keeps it on the pole, and then you just whack, 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 put another few staples down the center to keep it in place. And I go out about 2 a.m. myself. I try to. You can go anytime code enforcement really isn't working, but my thought is this: code enforcement might be done by 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening, sometime around there. But chances are, if they work code enforcement, they also live here. And so if they live here and they're off of work, just driving out to eat, and they see Chris Beckman up there hammering, they might write down my license plate for when they get back into work. So I like to go at times when, usually you have to be up to no good to be out, and that's 2 a.m. And I'll go from about 2 a.m. to sunrise, about 4 hours. I put on my podcast, and I bring a little step ladder because I'm only 5'6". I'm a short guy. So I get on a little 3 foot step ladder, and I get them way up there. And first, you want to focus on infiltration. So you get into areas, you want to get to major intersections. And then once you're popping up major intersections, down major roadways, the next is saturation. You just want to saturate. And there's some attrition to this marketing, guys. You're going to have to rebuy signs because the busy intersections, code enforcement is going to take them down. But it's all a numbers game. 5 or 6%.
I was actually standing next to Chris last night when the guy who had the print company was also at our real estate networking thing, and Chris ordered 20 more signs on the spot. Like
200 actually.
Yeah. Go on. And then the guy said he could make them at any kind of.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. But no, I was, like I said, so this is real life, really happens, really does it. And then was buying more signs, like I said, right in front of me. So no, that's cool. And like I said, I love how you talked about how you do it at night. One other thing I really want you to you bring up, because like I said, this is what you told me, and I was like, dude, that's another golden nugget. Tell about the fast food sign, like how you try to target drive-through, where places where people are parked and sitting.
Yeah, so I've lovingly named putting up a sign a stick, like you try to stick it on a pole somewhere. So I target high value sticks. So the intersections get taken down a lot. They're great traffic, but that's where code enforcement's rolling through, and and if you're on a main road, they'll just go down and take every one of them down. So you can lose some money pretty quickly. So I try to tuck it into neighborhoods, but really the best spots, you got to think, where are people going that might need my services? So everybody eats fast food, rich, poor, good day, bad day. People go through fast food, convenient, cheap, whatever. So I try to target telephone poles where I try to kind of estimate, like, hey, well, if I'm going through a drive-through line, where's it going to back up to? And if I'm sitting there, because you've seen Whataburger, sometimes you're waiting there 20, 30 minutes if it's really long to get your Whataburger around here. So, and people on the West Coast, In-N-Out, man. You've seen those lines, Chick-fil-A lines. Can you picture them in your head? I mean, they're huge. So if you can catch these telephone poles centered near one of these spots, gas stations, fast food restaurants. I got the deal that I got that the lady's house was going to tax auction was outside a laundromat, because I target laundromats too. You think people might have, if they have financial problems, let's say their washer and dryer break, they're out. Laundromats aren't cheap, but they still don't have enough money to fix the problem. So you got to start thinking, where am I going to meet the kind of people I'm going after? I'll look for bars, clubs, any place where, and these are great because they're not on public roadways. They're, Whataburger owns a property, Taco Bell owns a property, the club owns a property, the bar, whoever. And so code enforcement is a lot less likely to take those down. And generally speaking, the business owners, when you're like 8, 10 feet, 12 feet up on a pole, they don't care. It's not hurting their business. I've had one little market here. One guy called me up really mad because I put it outside of his market. And so I just apologized, said, hey man, I'm sorry. There's a million taxpayer poles out there. I did joke with him. I said, he goes, well, your sign's outside my store. I said, what, up on that taxpayer pole out there? And he goes, oh man, I don't like it. I said, I'm not, no worries. I don't want to make enemies. You don't want them calling code and making your life harder. So if somebody really complains, I don't put it up. I find a new pole. But the reason these are great, guys, is you don't have to even know what house to look for, right? This is inbound marketing. The people are going to start calling you. But to kind of touch on your guys' question, what houses do we look for? you're looking for signs of financial distress of any kind. So tarp on the roof, overgrown lawn, uh, wood rot. That's obvious. Maybe they have another one that I didn't think of in the beginning. You're rolling through a neighborhood where everybody should have central heating and air, and you see window units in their house, and they have a condenser, an AC unit right outside, but they still got window units. Okay, well, why aren't they fixing the AC? There's something, obviously money or something is an issue here. People don't usually go buy a $300 window unit and stick it in when they, unless they can't afford to fix their central heating and air. So you want to look for signs of distress. Find another way to do it. And so what I would do initially is actually just start going around your neighborhood looking for signs of physical distress. That's actually how I closed my first deal. Was a house F Street, back to that first property I bought. 3 doors down, there's a house on the corner of F and Chase, and it was a rental. There's a family living there, and there was a young man who was a terror to the whole neighborhood. When I first bought the house, he had gone around and spray painted the neighbors' barbecues and cars with pink spray paint. Luckily, it didn't hit mine. And then he came and decided he wanted to volunteer. He must have been only 12 years old. He decided he wanted to ask if I would hire him. We were working out in the yard, and my wife said, "No, we don't have anything to hire you for." And we left for Walmart. And when we came back, the kid had torn up all the lilies in our front yard out of retribution for not hiring him. And his final acts before leaving the neighborhood was to nail about 4 out of 5 cars one night going down the street, stealing his dad's truck. So everybody in the neighborhood was really tired of this family. And then I caught wind that they were thinking about maybe buying that house, or the owner's thinking about selling it. So once I heard that, I skip traced. And for those of you who don't know, you can do that for free. You can do that online at True People Search. You can type in somebody's address or name, and you can find their phone numbers. I pay for software to do it now. Now that I'm going, I use Batch Leads. I use X Leads, which actually Rick and Zach Ginn put out this last year, and it's great. PropStream is another great one. I don't personally use it anymore because Batch Leads does all that for me, but you can skip trace addresses and find the owner and their phone number. So I called up the lady who was renting this house out to these folks, and I said, "Do you want to sell it?" And keep in mind, I'd had the advantage of fixing up the house 3 doors up, so I had an advantage understanding what the market was like in that area. And she said yes. Fast forward, I didn't have any buyers. I got under contract. It was about a $20,000 spread, so I JV'd with a guy here who brought me my very first buyer content. We both pocketed $10,000. So
nice.
That was
then you saved your neighborhood. You saved your neighborhood from a menace.
Well, the cool part is, yeah, actually I did when you put it like that. But the corner house, as you can imagine, with the kind of people living there in this rental, they didn't take care of it. And everybody on our block had pretty much fixed up our houses. So it's kind of a cool move, made $10,000. Now, when you go look at the house, it's been flipped, resold to a nice family that moved in at a much higher rate. The investor made money. I made money. My house on F Street's actually worth more now because the corner ugly house is now nice, and we don't have a kid spray painting your cars. So, I mean, wholesaling really, really benefited me there. But anyway, that was my first deal, and it was because that house was ugly, and I knew there were problem people in it that inspired me to call. It wasn't the first deal I contracted. We talked about that. I didn't actually close that, but this is the first one I contracted and closed. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That would, to be honest, so that way people get a reference, because it's really hard I get this question a lot in private conversations, and I see it when people are on YouTube in the live chats with these other people, influencers and educators. They ask, well, how long does it take to get my first deal? Everybody, natural question. I started full-time wholesaling October of 2023, and I signed that contract in January of 2024, and it closed in February of 2024. Nice. So that's a 5-month spread for me. That took a while. Some people do it in like 30 days or less. Some people, I've heard stories, they were at it for over a year before they got their first deal. But once you get that first deal, it really puts things into perspective. And I don't care if the check is $5 or, like in my case, $10,000. That first deal, when you hold that check, you can't unsee that money in your hand and unsee the whole process. it will literally make you want to quit your job forever and say goodbye to your boss, because you don't have to be anybody else's boy anymore. Or girl.
Right. Well, and most people, when they get like one of their first checks out of real estate, it usually, you know, for a lot of people, like I know when I got my refi check, like that check was like more than I made in a year, you know, like, you know, and so, you know, like it is motivating to get in, because it's kind of like, man, what am I doing with my day job? I need to be doing more of this. But man, so you and your wife, Kate, seem to have built a great life together from day one. She helped you get into real estate. How has that partnership evolved and as the business has grown?
Absolutely. She's like the yin to my yang, man. She's a very organized person, which is good, detail oriented. She's also a dreamer like me, so that also is good. But she definitely has more in the areas where I lack as far as the organizational skills. So she definitely helps on that end. The wholesaling was kind of like, that was my baby. I took that from 0 to 100 by myself, but now she does help. I quit my full-time job in October of 2023 to pursue that. She was very kind to let me go first. And then she just quit early this year, actually, or maybe the end of last year, her full-time job at Conservice, which is a utility management company. So she's working full-time in the real estate, and she really helps because we have our investments too, our healthy homes, which we get our flips and our long-term rentals. So she's able to really help that get going. I mean, I have a wholesale rookie hat for my channel, but guys, I wouldn't have that if it wasn't for my wife. She immediately ordered them right away when I said I'll start the channel. She's so supportive and so great. I could have ended up with a better mate for life, but she is definitely, it's good to have, if you're married, it's definitely good to have the support of your spouse, even if they're not going to jump full-time in, it's good to have the support of a spouse. But I guarantee you, man, it'll make both you and your spouse very excited when you get that check. I mean, she's seen me bring in, I mean, I've had deals, my deals range. I've had $2,500 deal, and I've made $100,000 off of one deal. And so it ranges. You don't, I think that industry average nationwide is 15,000, probably per deal. But I really tell people, you kind of decide what you want to make per deal in a way. Like you kind of, if you tell yourself you can make $20,000 a deal, you'll start negotiating $20,000 deals. If you think you can only make $2,000 deals, that's what you're going to negotiate. It's a lot about the space between these two ears is the one you got to conquer right out the gate. One book I'd recommend that really helped me when I first started wholesaling, it wasn't even about wholesaling. It's called Miracle Morning. My Miracle. You guys read that one? Oh, yeah, man.
Hal Elrod, good guy.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't remember the author's name, but let me tell you, I eat a lot of things like a watermelon, including these YouTube recommendations I made, which means I take the good parts and spit out the seeds, stuff that doesn't work for me. Not everybody's life is the same. I'm not saying that people are wrong for what they put in their books. It's just not everything's applicable. So I try to take what I think helps what I've got going on and use those things. And that Miracle Morning really, just if people could understand this, that when you get in wholesaling and real estate, you're going to be very busy, and you have to take time to invest in yourself first. So the best time to do that is early in the morning. So read that book, get excited about wholesaling. And if you wake up early, grab the day by the horns, you will succeed.
Dude, no, I love that. I think, I think there might just be a little bit of bonus content here. What do you think, Sam? We could run this into like a hyper third episode where we're just kind of putting everything together. Because right now you've given us so much. So creating inbound marketing from your bandit signs, how we're doing it, high telephone poles, fast food, bar, laundry, local markets. Now, when we're getting these calls, what we're able to kind of oversee, which is the ARV, after repair value, going back for light, medium, heavy, maybe full gut or a higher price point neighborhood. I really highlighted something in here of having massive imperfect action. I liked how you said that, which I thought was pretty cool. But as we're diving in deep, I mean, you dropped a whole bunch of great like little golden nuggets in there. Free skip tracing just from True People Search, but then also software, batch leads, X leads, prop stream. I think there's so much more left to unpack on like how you build the business and then how to scale it, that I think this is a good time before I ask this next question that we kind of close out, lead up right now where we can find you at the Wholesale Rookie. And I know that YouTube's going to be live. Everyone's going to get all this information they've had right now, plus like 10 times more of detail. But Chris, tell us where we can find you real quick, because I definitely want to go back to the fact that you said you got that in October of 23 and you didn't close until February of 24, and what that timeline feels like so people don't give up, you know?
Yeah,
So
100%. So you can find me on YouTube. Content to be uploaded soon. I've got the channel, but I've just about to release content. So actually anybody who goes over there will be on the ground floor, and I will have, I really believe I'm going to have a special connection with the people that are on the ground floor. Naturally, since we'll have so few subscribers, I'll have more time to invest into people in the chat and answer questions personally. So I'm excited to see people over there. But the Wholesale Rookie, and it might be hard to find because the content isn't there yet. So search me out on Facebook. It's either Chris Beckman or Christopher Beckman. And I should know that, but I don't. And I live in Pensacola, Florida, so I'll help narrow the search. My email is chris@homebuyersco.com, HOMEBUYERSCO.com. Please hit me up. I am very anxious to meet other people. I learn even from people that seek me out I've had friends who've recently got into it, and I've been coaching them. I learn from them too, and they're brand new. They think of things and say things that I'm like, wow, so don't underestimate yourself. If you're new to this, you probably got a lot of great ideas up there. You just need somebody to help push in the right direction. So let's learn from each other.
No, I love it. You got to have that vessel. Sam, what about us, man? What do we do? Where can people find us?
Yeah, guys. So, hey, if you're listening, you might already be subscribed to our YouTube channel, but please share this with your friends and ask them to subscribe to the Elite Real Estate Podcast on YouTube. And then check out our website, theeliterealestatepodcast.com. If you want to shoot us a message there, if you want to be on the show, if you want to bring us a deal, if you want us to talk about your deal that you're looking at and you want us just to get some advice, see if it's the right deal for you, feel free to shoot us. We got that little info thing on the website. We can put in the information in the contact form, and we will get back to you. And then, like I said, check out our YouTube channel, the Elite Real Estate Podcast, and subscribe. And if you want to shoot a message to me personally on Instagram, it's Sam_Florida Man. I love to help people with real estate. Love to talk real estate, but definitely check out our website and subscribe to YouTube.
Dude, and we're about to compress a whole bunch of information in about 15 or 20 minutes of a bonus content. We don't always get 3 episodes, but Chris, I cannot thank you enough. There's just so much left to cover that I don't want to cut you short. So
I understand.
Yeah, I did. So check us out in this bonus episode coming up soon.
We'll see everybody in part 3.
I should have touched also earlier to let you guys know on that. The first one I contracted, I got through sticky notes, and I want to bring that up maybe in some bonus content if we do it, because I think that's kind of a, it's so for like Bandit signs are expensive to get into, $3 a sign usually. And if you put 100 out, that's $200-$300 investment, but sticky notes, man, it's like a Sharpie and a couple of bucks at the dollar store,
Dude, no. Cool. Let's start up right at 30.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Elite Real Estate Podcast, Part 3 with Chris Beckman. Man, we've been having such a great time going over all this information. You're dropping a lot of knowledge on us, and I think the reason we wanted to break out into Part 3 is just so we weren't rushed on time, and we could hear a little bit more about that first deal that you actually locked under contract and sold as a wholesaler. You said it took about. It was a 5-month process. You said, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, around October is when you locked it up under contract. And I think you disposed it approximately in February of the following year.
So I started wholesaling. I quit my job in October 2023 at the law firm. And then I locked it up in January, and locked it up in January and then disposed it in February. So it was about from lock up to dispo, it was like it was less than 30 days. And I will say that's probably what's beautiful about our business, right? Wholesaling, when you get something under contract, you're very close to the money, but it's the whole buildup up to that, first contract that can sometimes be very intimidating, where I think a lot of people give up, and they're what do they say? There's a 3 feet or 5 feet from gold, that illustration of the minor guy who's just, and he gives up right before he hits what's right on the other side of that dirt wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when we were on our break, you brought up a really good way of how you locked up that first deal under contract. I know in part 2 we went over your bandit signs, how you try to find good spots to place those high on the poles. But I love the method you just used, because actually I know of several people that have used this like personally, and it's worked well, and then I've heard of other people talk about it. So tell us, how did you get the people's attention to lock it up?
Absolutely. So you have to do what's a lot of people call reverse driving for dollars. Rick and Zach can call that, but the idea reverse drive. Yeah. So driving for dollars, just to explain that really fast, is when we drive around and we look for properties that are ugly. Okay. We can see signs of physical distress that like we talked about earlier in the last episode. But let me
pause you real quick for a golden nugget for everybody. If you want to be in real estate, driving for dollars is 100% necessary. Will and I actively do this a couple times a month to keep our funnel full of deals. I think everybody who's serious about buying and closing deals does this, but you have to be putting in work to keep that funnel full. And driving for dollars is one of the most effective ways to do it. But all right.
On top of that, if you're in a city or an area where you're having to drive anyway, sometimes it's just like opening up your mind. It's something that you're doing anyway. If it's a commute, if it's going to the grocery store or something, just keep, obviously safe driving, but just keep your mind open of looking kind of for these things. And then next thing you know, you might have a deal in your hands that's been, well, like Chris said, start in your neighborhood, right? So it could be around the corner or it could be up the street. And that cost you $0 more than what you were already doing on that commute or whatever. So a lot of times people think things are expensive. And I think Chris is going to break down like some of these costs to get this first deal, what he did to do them, because he talked a little bit in the last episode about bandit signs, which 1, take a lot of work. You're going around, and 2, they do cost a lot of money, but there's a ton of other ways and opportunities that Chris is going to talk about that are kind of homegrown, that guerrilla marketing. It's where you have a little bit more time, then you have a little bit more money, right? So you're gonna kind of trade that time for the lack of money to kind of get the deals, and then you can kind of stack and build.
100%. Yeah. I think the very first deal I got under contract, as I told you, I didn't actually close on, but I got it under contract by using sticky notes. I mean, and they're great. I've got friends in the area who this is all they do. They don't focus on any other funnels. They actually just stick to sticky notes. So you can build a full-time wholesaling business and never switch from this. And the reason I like sticky notes is because you make a ton of money with very little overhead. I walked into a CVS or a Walgreens. I think it was Walgreens. CVS was on the other corner. Walked into Walgreens. I bought a Sharpie, and I bought like 500 sticky notes. And I think my bill was like $8 or $10, something like that on my receipt. And I told I didn't know it. I only believed it. I didn't know it because I hadn't done it. But I told the lady at the counter, I said, I'm going to make thousands of dollars with these things right here. And she looked at me and she said, what? I said, yeah, I'm going to make thousands of dollars with this. I'm going to go out and I'm going to contract properties with these things. And she goes, okay, good luck. Yeah, I told her that. And so I was out leaving sticky notes just an hour after that. An hour, 2 blocks behind that Walgreens. I leave a sticky note and this lady's out trimming the yard, and it was an ugly house. And I'm like, you think you want to sell this house? She goes, well, no, it's not my house. She says, it's my friend's house. So no. And I go, oh, okay. She goes, but I have a house that's burnt down over off of Mallory. Would you be interested in something that's burnt down? I said, absolutely. What's the address? I'd like to go look at it. Turns out this house sat on a triple lot. And I contracted it. Yeah. I contracted it for $30,000 at the time. And I had an offer the next day from a lawyer friend for $80,000 on it. So needless to say, my mind at this moment, I just got done telling the lady at Walgreens that I was going to go make thousands of dollars, but it was just a hope. It wasn't, or a belief. It wasn't real yet. And then I'm signing, like within the week, I'm executing my first contract. And that was the same one I mentioned in an earlier episode that sold on the MLS just a few months ago for like 170 grand. I mean, and that's because down here where it's starting to develop, it's 3 lots. Somebody bought it, they can build, So at any rate, I was really bummed when I wasn't actually able to close on that contract because I really wanted $50,000 to be my first deal. That would be amazing, but it didn't matter. It was as I mentioned, it was my proof of concept. That's all I needed to propel me. And so I still use sticky notes. In fact, there's 2 ways I can tell you to do this. You can go around and put them on ugly houses, or you can reverse it and you can use software like batch leads and stuff, and you can learn how to pull lists. You can pull lists of pre-foreclosures, tax delinquencies. You can get with your local courthouse and you can get a report of people with code violations. And so I like to go to these houses and leave a sticky note on these houses that are on these lists, because I already know that there's some other potential motivation beyond just they got an ugly house. As you guys know, we have several neighborhoods here that there's a lot of ugly houses. So I'll go through some neighborhoods. It's like, dang, I'm leaving a sticky note on every other house. And it's really just like playing looking for that one that wants to say yes. But when you do reverse driving for dollars and you start with motivation and work your way back, you'll get yourself a lot closer to the goal quicker. So I recommend that. And a lot of people wonder
Can you go over that again? Because I think that is revolutionary, right? So reverse driving for dollars. We talked about the concept of driving for dollars. Now we're talking about reverse driving for dollars so that you can make this driving for dollars much more effective, which essentially is like creating a geo-targeted campaign of what's going to have the best conversion rate, right? And in this sense, right, everything that converts would be a potential wholesale, and which really is lots of money. Like you said, you spent $8 at Walgreens and it could turn into 50,000. So give the listeners again, just because you've been crushing all these golden nuggets, and I just can't wait for your YouTube channel to go live. But give them some of these golden nuggets on this reverse driving for dollars, because you said it starts with a motivation, right?
Yeah.
And I think you dropped a few, like tax deeds, code violation, and then you said a few more, but I know that you're probably layering it, so you're getting really, really solid leads. So when you're putting that sticky note on there, it's solid.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, and some of these lists, you're going to have to pay for a service like batch leads, and that's going to cost you like $100 a month, or some 80 to 100. X leads, I think, you get for like $49 a month. So I would definitely suggest that. And you can find cash buyers through X leads too, guys. So let me tell you, like, that's an advanced platform. I would definitely check out that one first. But batch leads is great for driving for dollars because they got a driving app built in to their app. So you can tag homes as you go, but you can pull these lists from said software. Yeah, it's so sick. You can pull these lists, they have filters, like easy filters in these programs. So you just click a check mark in a box: pre-foreclosures, absentee owner, which means that's somebody who owns the house but they don't live in it. Tired landlord, that's probably a filter that's looking for people who own houses that they don't live in. They're an absentee owner and they've owned that rental property for longer than 20 years. So they might be tired of it. There might be repairs. But if you're trying to do free in the beginning, you're leveraging your time for money, then you can start at the local courthouse and you can look for code violations. So in Pensacola, I believe they've actually offloaded that duty to the police department. So I think you need to contact the police department here now to get those code violation lists. At least that's who they made me go to, and they were able to give it to me. So, but in other areas, they're at the courthouse. It might vary. A quick Google search will tell you what your city or county will do.
I actually did it just not too long ago, and I had to go to the 3rd floor if you're in our area of the property appraiser. But if you're able to get this X leads, I had to pay $25, and it was just to run a very specific list that I had to come up with in my head. I didn't have anything to check off and things like that. Like, I had to break it down, and then on top of that, it was not instantaneous, and it was crazy. I had to pay cash or a check, and then I had to come back after that, and then they ended up emailing me a list when I followed up. But it was not like, okay, I'm here, I'll wait for an hour, and they said, oh no, we're going to put you on this laundry list of things we already having to deal with.
You're absolutely right about that. When I got my code violations list here, it was a couple of weeks of emailing back and forth. You're going to have to work at these lists, guys. There's no quick way to get these lists, and be nice to the people. Don't just come out and say, well, I've got the Freedom of Information Act, release it to me now. These, and if you hit a brick wall in that department, don't give up. You just, maybe that person's having a bad day. Try to go back on a different day to the courthouse where maybe somebody else is working the window, because you can request this information. The way I did it for the code violations, you have to decide how you want to do it and what you're comfortable with. But if they think that you're using it for marketing or advertising, they can be kind of stingy with it. So I just said I'm doing a college project, and I'm trying to, I'd like to see how many code violations we have currently in Escambia County where people owe money, and they're really handy and sent me the list. So, you might have to get a little creative to get the list in your area, depending on who you first contact and if they're a bad gatekeeper. But nonetheless, you can get this information. I would rather skip straight to paying like $50 to get X leads and pull a list of pre-foreclosures and absentee owners and do that. If you paid $25 and you had to come up with that list, and then they're going to give you an Excel spreadsheet, now what do you do with that? Now you got to skip trace these people, and you're going to have to maybe
talk a little bit about skip tracing. What is that?
So skip tracing is, of course, when we have an address or a name, and like if I type in an address, it'll skip trace the address, and it pulls from different data points, credit bureau, maybe 911 records, different places. I don't understand it all, but that's kind of the basics of it, and they're able to come up with the best estimation of what the phone number is for the owner of that house. And so a lot of these new software services will give you almost unlimited skip traces now for free. I mean, or at least a super high amount, to where you'd have to be on a major monster marketing plan to use that many skip traces. So it's really worthwhile. They'll skip X Leads, for example, skip traces them in real time, so they get the most current information on these people. And you get like, on the basic plan, I think you get like 10,000 of those a month or something like that. So, I mean, you got a lot to work with there. And I would just start there. And my sticky notes are a little different. You'll hear sticky notes is a very popular thing. A lot of people like to go the route of getting the call back. They'll say something a little bit ambiguous, like, hey, I have a question about your property, or hey, I have a question. Can you please give me a call, Chris, and their number. And I started off that way, and the phone does ring. But after watching RJ Bates and the King Closers formula, I wanted to refine the way I was doing sticky notes to match what I did on the phone on cold calls. So I started getting more direct to the point. My notes are very simple. I say, hey, I like your property. Are you interested in selling? Thanks, Chris, and my number. That's it. And I go from like 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. because I want to go when the kids aren't home from school, when the people are at work. I don't want them to see me at 8 a.m. when they're on their way to work. And I definitely don't want to be there when they get home from work, because, people are naturally grumpy and tired when they get home from work. So they don't want to see some dude leaving a note on their house. So to me, when people see that note, they understand why I'm reaching out to them, and they make the decision right then and there. They're going to call me back or not. And so when my phone rings, it's only one of two scenarios. If I said something ambiguous, they'd be like, well, what's your question? Or what's going on? Is my house okay? Did my dog get out? I don't want my phone ringing uselessly. They're either calling to tell me to take a leap, don't come on property anymore, which happens every once in a while. You got to grow a thick skin and just ignore it. Or they're calling because, I want to sell it. I made 13 grand recently off of one sticky note and that took 3 weeks to do. Left it on the house. They called me and I noticed the house was empty. And it was is West Marino, so kind of by the old Baptist hospital.
Nice. And just kind of throwing this out there for people, the thing that makes, I think one of the things that makes a sticky note so effective for this kind of real estate is that, if they were wanting to go with a realtor, they would have called someone on the billboard, so they're already not looking for that. So the sticky note makes you think that, like, hey, this is someone, which a wholesaler is, they may be buying your house directly, or they may be selling the contract, but it's like, oh, hey, I got this guy here, in this instance, Chris. Oh, this guy, Chris, hey, he looks like he's serious about buying my house. And he handwrote a note with the phone number, and he physically was there. So, the guy was in the area here, physically saw your house. So there's a lot of things that all of a sudden go real in the potential person's head about, like, oh, wow, okay, someone might really buy my house, because, a lot of times, like, it is in such bad shape that they know they can't list it. They might have even had a realtor tell them they couldn't, and so they have all these things going against them of why they're not out there seeking it. So sometimes, like I said, just getting that little prompt on the door, an informal sticky note is the kind of lead, and it actually will even work better than being a completely branded company of we buy houses, like you're a professional. Sometimes coming off as just the guy next door that's interested in your house is more effective.
Very organic. I encourage every wholesaler, even if you're new, to embrace the role of the investor. You're the, you want to act like you're the buyer to a degree, because you want to embody that. You want to get in the mental capacity that you're the guy with the cash. They want your money. Now you want them to tell them why you should buy their house in a way. And I know that sounds a little maybe upfront with these people, but you kind of have to get in that role. We're not realtors, we're buying, and we might be put into an investor. And I'm not saying lie to the people, and tell them I'm buying this when you're going to wholesale it. There's ways to word this and to explain to people what we're doing without scaring them off the deal. But you want to embody that end buyer, because those are the people that we're looking out for. We're looking out for our sellers, but we got to make sure our end buyers win. Otherwise, they're not going to come to wholesalers for the deals.
Totally. So getting that first deal, so you're giving us a lot of really awesome info here. How much did it actually cost you to get this deal? Because I'm sure someone's, that wants to get started or learn exactly what you're doing. They might not have all the money for all this marketing. And so you've given us a lot of really great opportunities. So one, go to your local government or something and try and get these lists, try and get them discounted from paying for a list, or subscribe to something that's kind of relatively low entry with a low barrier of entry, but then, creating your own lead source by using sticky notes or leaving something at their door or writing them a letter, maybe physically putting it in their mailbox, where it takes more time, maybe, actually writing, actually going to their house, but really not a lot of money. Right. And then you can kind of elevate that marketing, getting into lead generation, which you can talk a little bit on, and then kind of the bandit signs, which it sounds like you have a really great return on investment from those. That is one that's high investment and high amount of time, right? So but if it's giving you a great return, it's okay to have a little bit of both. But I'm curious, like when you first started, how much did that deal cost you to do? If you take the time from it, what gave you that lead?
So the one that closed.
Yeah, actually, how do you know when you get a sticky note call? They usually say like, "Hey, I got your sticky note," or
yeah, they'll start off, "Hey, I got your note that you left on my door." Like they'll start off that way. So they'll definitely, because they're interested at that point, or they're really anxious to tell you to get lost. Like, cause it's so funny. They're happy to tell you something either way, but you just have to wait. But I think that first deal, because the first one that closed was, I had heard that that neighbor was potentially interested in buying that house, or
around the corner from you.
Selling. Yeah. So that was very organic. But at the time I did have a batch lead subscription, and I was paying, I think, $80 a month for my batch lead subscription. Yeah. And that I used that to skip trace the property in order to get the owner's information. If I'd gone to truepeoplesearch.com, could I have found her information? Yeah. I mean, probably, you can Google, if you get resourceful, you could do it.
Totally worth the investment. Totally worth it.
Yeah, it is. $80 a month is nothing. I also personally, I have a background in cold calling. So I also invested in Batch Dialer. And I think that was like another $100 a month. So I was, $180 a month, and that can seem intimidating to a lot of people, but I was very comfortable jumping into cold calling right away. You don't have to do that. You can start off with sticky notes and free skip tracing, or just invest in like X leads or batch leads, anywhere from $50 to $100 a month, in that range. And you can skip trace unlimited. And I really suggest that you at least invest that into yourself. Number one, you don't have to commit for the whole year. You can pay for a whole year up front and they'll give you a break, but it's a month to month. So you can cancel at any time, and it will really help you can also use these softwares to help with your comps. I use Zillow and those softwares both to kind of get a good idea of what the comps, and when we say comps, are comparables. Well, I'm trying to determine that ARV, right? That after repair value. So that software helps with that. So yeah, like you were saying in the beginning, you're trading a lot of your time for money, but then we want to start buying back our time and trading money for money. And so that's when I kind of moved into bandit signs. So my last, I got my first return. I would say that all in all in bandit signs, I've put in the neighborhood of maybe like $2,500 into bandit signs. And I have made probably somewhere close to 50 grand, 50 grand off of
Good
those
return.
bandits of last year. So yeah. So, we're all looking for that ATM. We can stick a buck in and it spits 3 out, it's like, and you stand in front of that ATM all day long if it would do that. And so bandit signs are kind of like that for me. And they really are one of those things you got to be patient, man. It took forever, like 9 months for me to get my first call on bandit signs, but that's also because I was starting off small. I was not sure of my design. I was testing certain things, ordering online. You might get your call in the first week if you put them in the right spots and the right person drives by. You don't know, but they absolutely bandit signs are great inbound. So we're trying to move from the outbound to inbound, but I have a few different funnels and they all kind of produce a golden egg every once in a while. So I have my bandit signs. I cold call lists that I pull. And then I drive for dollars and I cold call those people. I also do PPL. One of the very best deals I had that I made 100K on. It came at the end of my workday. I had made probably 150 cold calls that day, put out 100 in sticky notes, and it was about 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. I gotten this many people interested in selling their house, and I was feeling a little discouraged that day because I'd been on all my activities when I heard a bing go off on my computer, and it was propertyleads.com. And I put about $1,500 in an account for them, and I was paying about $150 a lead. So that's worth 10 leads if you do the math. And it binged, and it was a property on the beach. And I printed out a contract right then. I said, honey, don't wait on me for dinner. This is my next big deal. I know it. And pay per lead is great because what they do is these people advertise on YouTube and these other places, and people who want to sell their house fill out this form. They're basically raising their hand saying, I want to sell my house. And they'll give you information like price point, motivation, some of that stuff. So about 1 in 10 to 1 in 20 of those close. And so that night I contracted the house for $485,000. And the next day at about 5 o'clock, I had assigned the deal at $585,000 to an end buyer.
Next day.
And
Yikes.
27 days later, we closed. And on December 17 last year, I made $100,000 into my account from that one deal that cost me $150. I was discouraged, been out there doing everything I can to dig leads, and then this comes into my lap. And the next lead I got after that, I made $10,000 off of. So $300 on 2 paper leads resulted into $110,000 within a very short amount of time each other, within 30, 40 days. That was, so there's not many businesses where you can do this kind of stuff. I mean, it blew my mind. Absolutely.
Dude, that's insane, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. So you guys are getting it live, getting everything from little to no money to increasing that marketing budget and everything in between, and nice combos of both. So, as you guys can tell, sometimes there's that 20, 30, 40-day stretch that can be a grind. So just for all the listeners, as we're kind of closing out these few episodes, how do you stay motivated? How do you stay consistent? How do you keep building the business? How do you keep getting those lead generations and just, keep producing that hustle? Just kind of like you had mentioned earlier, where the little guy, he's mining, right? And he's like so close, but then he gives up. When you kind of go through some drier times or things like that, how are you doing that? Are you reassessing the whole business model? Are you staying consistent? Like let everybody know, because I know that's going to be a really critical part for everyone's success.
Yeah, I would say definitely stick to the plan. A lot of wholesalers will make a mistake at these 2 points. Number one, I made some money, and then I get shiny object syndrome, and I think I hear somebody else on YouTube say, do this, do that. And so I go in 180 degrees or like off in a completely different direction, trying something I never tried before because I have some money to invest. If it's working and it worked for you initially, the best advice I can give you is to double down on what worked and keep doing that. And then during the times when it's not working, maybe always go back to what worked, and then ask yourself, has anything changed in my process? If nothing has changed in my process, I know I'm just in one of those sales streaks where it just, because it's all an average, right? You might close 1 in 100 calls, but you might make 2,000 calls before you get that first one. And then the very next call, you get another one. So you got 2 out of that first, but if over a year, you average it all out, you get an average. So there's no real way to consistently do it. I think pay per lead is definitely the most consistent way, or pay per click, once you get money for that. But really, just one thing I tell myself is I try to take me out of the picture, and I start thinking about, like, when I'm out there. So, like, for example, if I'm leaving sticky notes, sometimes I can get a little shy feeling. Like, I don't want to go up to somebody's house. They got Ring cameras, or, I've been chewed out too many times. I'm feeling scared, or I'm feeling discouraged because I've been putting out sticky notes for 4 weeks and nothing came through from them. And I'm like, what the heck? But I try to think, like, every house that I'm going up to leave that sticky note, somewhere out there, somewhere today, somebody needs me. Somebody's got a house that is absolutely drowning them. That is their family. They can't feed their family, or whatever is a big problem. And Chris Beckman is going to walk up and leave a note on their door, and that's going to be the answer to their prayer or their need or whatever it is, And so if I keep that positive thought for somebody else in my mind, it kind of helps me grind through. And I won't lie, my wife will tell you I get discouraged. She if I don't do sales, I start getting upset and, doubting myself. And so I have a great wife who also encourages me and says, honey, you do this every time you're in a slump. So I would just tell people, like, remember that, like, remember your high moments. Like, I think back, my favorite moment, the first time I made my first deal, where I made, like, a good chunk. I think it was a $45,000 deal. And I happened to be a Friday. I was out on the water with my dog on the boat, listening to Van Morrison, Tupelo Honey, and my phone binged, and I looked down, and 45K just hit my account. And it was last June, actually. And I thought to and that gave me a huge dopamine rush. So now I'm in June of this year, and I still think back to that time, and I can still capture that warm and fuzzy feeling inside, and remember how good that felt. And I remember that there's another deal coming down the pipe. And if you want to avoid the roller coaster effect, we all experience this in the beginning, because you wear a lot of hats. You got to acquire the leads, then you got to turn those leads into contract. Then you got to dispo them. We got to sell them. So you'll have that roller coaster effect, because you'll be out there hustling, generating leads. Then you get something under contract, and now your focus completely shifts. Now you have to sell this contract. It's happened to me a lot of times. So that's the struggle you're going to go through in the beginning, until you can afford to start building out your team and your process. So you're going to face those slumps, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to make you feel like quitting. But then what are you going to go do? Go back to making like $2-3 grand at best a paycheck, and waking up every day working for somebody else? Are you going to go out there and say, I could walk into a $20,000 deal today and wake up and be my own boss and help people out of the way I see fit and build a life? My wife and I have a goal. We want to open up a campground one day where we can it's like a Christian campground. We can have summer camp events, and if kids can't afford it, I'm going to have ways to get them there where we raise money to do that. And so my passion for real estate comes from I have a why. You'll hear people that you have to have a why. So during the times of discouragement, money is very shallow. It's fleeting. It comes and goes. It can't be your only motivation to be in this. You have to have other people you love and a bigger reason you're pushing for. And usually for a lot of people, that's to free up their time to do something. So this is, for me, I go back to my why a lot and go, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And that brings me through the slump. Then I hit a deal, and everything's golden again. And just means next opportunity. Remember that. Next opportunity. No, that's all that means. Embrace it.
Not right now. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I like that. So and this segue great into what kind of like what's your overall vision. So looking ahead, as you're building this real estate empire, what is that end game that you and Kate have?
Yeah. So we want to have enough properties under our belt to where we just have great passive income, to where we can transition to the campground someday. And then I'd also like to but I want to build multiple streams of revenue. We just recently started a property management company. We didn't touch much on that. It doesn't matter. It's just one thing that developed for us. But the wholesaling is something I really am going to continue to build and focus on. That's why I'm starting the Wholesale Rookie, because I want to expand further, reach more people into more markets. I can disposition in just about any market now after the last 2 years. So my goal is to reach people and start bringing deals in, wholesaling deals in that I'm partnering on. We call it JV, joint venture. So that's the vision for the future, guys.
I love
it. We're gonna hold you accountable and check in and keep checking out that YouTube channel and catch lunch and dude, and do deals together. I mean, most
that sounds great.
Yeah,
you got a list of properties I want to cold call already, I think, right? You got some empty land properties. Send them over,
in your
man.
inbox.
Okay, right on. So I already know what I'm doing tonight. I'm skip tracing that. That's going into batch, Tyler. So, see, and I'll say that too to any wholesalers out there. Like, if you feel like you're running out of ways to go, find a local real estate investing meeting, meet guys like these guys. They're out there. They're investors. They're building. Talk to people. They can help you. These guys want to buy deals. They have a list of vacant properties that they've done driving for dollars that they're looking for wholesalers who will call that to lock up the deal, because they've got to focus on their business. So if you feel like you don't have anywhere to go, find a local real estate investing meeting, introduce yourself, and start building relationships. Deals will come.
Dude, that's golden advice, because there are people like Will and me that'll gladly tell you, like, hey, we're buying this. If you can get this for us, we'll pay you this. And it can basically be nonstop money, because like Will and I laid out for people how, hey, if you bring us a deal, we'll pay you X. If you get, and we'll give you a whole list of deals we want. And if you can take down one of our lists, we'll pay you Y. And it works. It's not something where people gotta, go find a random deal, then find a random seller. There's plenty of people like Will and myself that do this exact thing. They focus on different areas of the market, have different niches, and they'll straight up tell a wholesaler, like, hey, this is my buy box, and I buy everything that's like this. Bring them to me.
Yep. It's beautiful. I mean, I do the same thing. I have a friend who just started, and I gave him a list. I've got so many thousands of skip traces. What am I going to do? I can't call all these people. So I gave him a list, and now we've actually JV'd on one deal in California together. And nice. I think we made 14 grand each off that deal. So, I mean, it really works, guys. And it always works if you work it. Don't get discouraged. Every time you feel discouraged, just reach out. Expand your circle. Don't shrink it. Expand. And if you keep going, you'll just walk into deals. Tell everybody what you do. Tell them you buy houses. Somebody needs you out there.
Dude, I love it. I love it. And right there, we're going to end it with, if I was new and I knew nothing and I just listened to these 3 episodes and I'm super fired up, wrapping all this, 2+ hours that we've been wrapping right now. What is the best advice that you could give on how to get started and doing exactly what you're doing, like to get that first deal in that, 30 to 45 days?
Definitely the driving for dollars, sticky notes. Like, focus on that driving for dollars. That's the most affordable way. Bam. Find those ugly houses and talk till everybody. They're going to be sick of hearing it from you, but sticky notes and everybody. That's it. You will have a deal. If you can get to 100 houses a day in 30 days and you don't have a deal at the end of those 30 days, call me. We're going to figure out why. But let me tell you, you will get one. I know one guy here, he puts out 100 notes a day, and it takes probably 500-600 notes, and he averages a deal out of those 500-600 notes. So what would you do with 3 or 4 deals a month that paid 10 to 15K minimum?
Wow.
Dude, that is awesome. So finally, where can our listeners connect with you and follow you on your journey?
Man, I would love it if you guys all jump on over to my new channel. I'm just about to put content on, The Wholesale Rookie. Find me on Facebook, Chris Beckman. I'm in Pensacola, Florida. So that gives you some search parameters there. I will JV anywhere in the country. So hit me up if you have some deals you need to move. And I can go over formulas too on how to make sure it's really a deal. I'll go over the numbers with you. And if nothing else, email me, chris@homebuyersco.com, HOMEBUYERSCO.com.
Dude, epic. What a day. Lance, thanks for sticking in with us. Chris, dude, incredible. Like I've got like 10 notes here, and it was the thing, dude. I don't know about you, Sam, but this was just like full of golden nuggets. The whole thing, like everyone should be playing, replaying, clicking into the next episode, going back to this last episode, and just replaying it over and over again.
Yeah, I'm motivated to go create some "We Buy Land" bandit signs for us to go hit the north end of the county.
Literally right here in my notes. I don't know why it's not showing up.
That's nice.
That's why we're partners. We're not even in the same room, and we think
you're already thinking.
I literally have that written down, and underneath it, I put a little budget between us, and I was like, dude, why are we not doing this? This is insane that you're getting that many leads, and I don't know if I'm getting a ski mask, but I mean, who knows?
Hey, you know what? You can even if I'm out, we might be able to work out something. It's good. I could maybe stick up some land signs for you. I buy houses, you buy land. We could put them together.
I love it. No, dude, I love it. I love it so much. Yeah, sticky notes don't work so well on the grass, but
mow it into their land.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're all overgrown when you find them.
Oh man, dude. But seriously, I've got a ton of notes. This was super fun. Can't thank you enough for your time, expertise, like super organic, open, telling us, straight numbers, letting the listeners know exactly what you're doing to be successful is super cool. We went to a thing last night talking about gatekeeping, exactly the opposite of what I think all three of us are doing. We're just pretty open about everything. But dude, the fact that you're allowing everyone to know what you're doing, Chris, and coming on the show, we can't thank you enough. This has been a ton of fun. So.
Hey, thank you guys. I seriously, you guys educated me for 2 hours in the parking lot. I learned so much, so I really appreciate it.
I'm excited to get back on that deal in Milton.
I called them. I left a message, so I'll let you know how it goes. I'm sure they'll call back because I was like, come on, I think I got a way to work this. So we'll see. But that was very insightful. So if you guys got a land deal, hit up Will, hit up Sam. They'll walk you through it. Even if they don't want to buy it, they'll at least tell you, what to look for. So I think that's really cool. Reach out, guys. There's resources all around.
We love helping people. So yeah, great segue. Tell everyone to go to our website, theeliterealestatepodcast.com. Like I said, we got a little sheet on there where you can put in your information, send us a message. If you're looking at a land deal and you want our opinion, Will is the chat GBT for land. Like that's a nickname that he's been given here locally by other wholesalers, and it's real. I'm just so blessed to have him as a partner. But yeah, he knows land like I said, like no other, and he can help you. He has tons of experience working with builders, and we love looking at deals. And guys, if you have any land deals in Pensacola, you want to sell it, we love to buy it. And if maybe we're not buying it, we know tons of people that also buy land deals too. So send it our way. We'd love to take a look at it. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Elite Real Estate Podcast. And I think I kind of hit it. What anything else, Will, before we go?
Hit the notification bell and smash that like button, guys.
Smash that like, dude. I appreciate it. Again, thank you, Chris and Lance. Everyone, we always you give a big shout out to Lance. He's listening to us, to us yapping forever. So appreciate you, Lance. And we'll stay tuned. Tune in next week.
Guys, appreciate you tuning in. See you on the next episode.
See you guys.